may take a while. Hi. So, thanks for having me. I met your dean, Dean Chayette, about a year and a half ago, and I was just so impressed and happy about the fact that she thought the way she does, and that I shared so much in common with her, and I think I was missing that. I was at UGA at the time, Terry College of Business, teaching leadership and communications, but I really felt very akin to what she's doing, at least the stuff that I know that she's doing right now. Y'all are much more enlightened than I am about school of social work, but obviously you've gotten a lot of accolades and awards lately, and so I'm really pleased to be here. So one of the things that I'm really big on is not wasting people's time and making sure that people get something of value. You are the heroes of my idea, to kind of quote someone else named Nancy Forte, who wrote a great book on presenting, and you can pull that up as TED Talk if you like. But you are the heroes of the idea. The world is a hero of whatever idea you have, and I hope that doesn't sound too grandiose. But I'd like to talk to you today about some scary stuff for me, which is the birth of 14 Words for Love as a business now, a social enterprise. And I'm not going to plug 14 Words for Love as much as just give you the inspiration behind that, because I think 14 Words for Love, I like to think of it as everybody's. Everything we create on the website, which is not up yet, but is being worked on, is for everybody. And that's, that aligns with our mission, which is to provide a platform for and encourage people to create small works of writing, art, and conversation. I brought some books here today that have inspired me, and I just wanted to start with a couple. So one of them is When They Call You a Terrorist. It was written by one of the 3 people who started Black Lives Matter. And one of my best friends in Raleigh sent this to me for my last birthday. And I would strongly recommend that if you're interested in more work in that space. Another, which I can't say enough good about, is We Can't Talk About That at Work, written by a woman who owns a consultancy and has really figured out how to, regardless of where the business or organization is in its culture, and we'll talk a little bit about culture, is, framing that and helping set it up so people feel less, I don't want to say uncomfortable because that's a good thing, but it's not framed in shame or blame or, all those nice words. The Righteous Minds, some of you may know Fenwick Royard, who started Community Connection and has done a lot of awesome stuff for athletes. He turned me onto this book a few months ago, and this is really helpful to me for many reasons. My family has a big schism, a big divide between, in the realm of politics and religion. So this has been really helpful to me. And then this one is not just, but it is a book about social justice poetry and creative writing. And I used to use this in the schools in Durham and Wake County, Wake Forest, and a couple other North Carolina school systems to get people talking about their incarcerated parents, or how they feel marginalized, or abuse they may be going through, which is I'm not a clinician. I'm an organizational psychologist, so I want to be careful that I don't do that and not have the skills to be able to see it through. But anyway, so these things are things you can flip through. I have creative, not sustenance necessarily, but creative prompts here. So I'm a big believer in this kind of presentation. It's not really a presentation, it's more like a workshop. Grab some stuff. There's fine markers in here, there are colored pencils or markers, there's Play-Doh, there are, scissors and all sorts of things. Start creating your own, whether they're 14 words or not. Just start playing around with the art. So let's get, to it. All right, one of the things that I find really fun to start with is, I am not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So if you bear with that quote, it's a long one, but think about it as it pertains to your own self, or maybe in the context of, I think of it as looking glass theory, which is a sociology theory, right? But I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who I think, like, I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. So, I'd like some feedback about that. Does that ruffle your feathers, or is that something that you just kind of like, I've known that all my life? Does that get in our way? Anybody want to say that's BS? It's not true?
I would say it's certainly not always true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty troubling if I think that you are judging me or seeing me as less than in some way. I don't want to become that thing.
Thank you for that. Most of us are nodding our heads. Like, yeah, that's not your place to do that, right? How much of that can we control? Yeah, I mean that's also a problem. Well, we'll keep that in mind as we go along. But I do want to talk just a minute about looking glass theory, and this is the only like professory thing that I'm going to do today. So a significant portion of us, or what we construct as us, comes from those social interactions because we're social animals. So I have capitalized the imagine here and dovetailed that with judgment, right? Because you mentioned judging is a big part of that, or the perception of judging. And so what we do is we kind of go through all of this, I think, unless maybe there are people like the Dalai Lama who has kind of transcended that. I'm not trying to be funny. I think that's a really great goal to transcend that. But we develop self through those imagined judgments. I have made that mistake several times where I have perceived based on someone's lack of smiling at me or quietness, you know, even with my husband, whom I've known forever, just that he's upset or he doesn't agree or something like that, right? So we tell these stories to ourselves. Stories are wonderful, but they're also dangerous. And I love the TED Talk about the single story. We don't have time to get into that today, but so it can be complicated. This is sort of a silly little cartoon, but this is an adolescent or an early 20-something maybe. This is how my mom and dad see me, my girlfriend, or maybe it's a female teen, my older brother, and my ex-girlfriend sees me. So you got the whole gamut of that. But then I think more important, well not more, but as important, are social identities. And that's something that I can thank Keisha Thomas for. I don't know how many of you know Keisha or Dr. Thomas, but she's the Senior Associate Dean at Franklin. And she started out her academic career here at UGA as an assistant professor in, I believe it was 1991, and was on my dissertation committee in 1994. And she encouraged me, if I was interested in social identity theory, which I was, to go ahead and pursue that despite the backlash that I was getting from the 4 males on my committee. Because that was not businessy enough, right? That was back then. I don't know if they've changed their minds about that or not, but doesn't make me a hero. I'm just giving a shout out to someone like Keisha Thomas, someone like Anna Chayette, right? To be supportive like that. So all my life I've been really fortunate to have at the right time, it seems, someone who's a little bit smarter or more experienced come around and say, by the way, Keisha is younger than me, which I think is more awesome.
Yeah.
But to say, no, 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 no. You give up now, that's on you. Sort of like the Legally Blonde professor at the end of, I thought I knew you better than that. So, social identity, we've got, tell me some of your most cherished identities.
Mother.
Pardon me?
Mother.
Mother, okay.
Family.
Okay.
Social work.
Social work, yeah. Occupation is really good. And passion. What else? Where is this thing that we tend to really get uncomfortable? Some of us, probably not y'all as much. But race and ethnicity. Politics, race, ethnicity, religion, all of those things, right? And the intersectionality and gender identity and all that. They seem to be things that unfortunately we're not able, well, we are able, but we just don't feel comfortable for some reason, right? And we're not going to get into all those reasons today, but what I think is the answer, besides being able to be an influencer in the workplace or at school, which is huge, is creating. And that's not to say that art is that safe, silent way to do it, right? But it's a start. So whether working with your clients now or after we graduate, or just as important than yourselves, you all have things that you're thinking that you'd like to say. And 14 words is not so much a platform to rant. In fact, it's not that at all. But it's to ask questions, it's to celebrate our diversity and inclusiveness. So, social identity, a lot of it is not seen. Some of it is. What is assumed? What are the effects? Which goes back to looking glass theory. I think the effects can be pretty harmful, actually, in terms of what others may perceive, and especially when they tell you, and marginalize. So we've talked a little bit about people closest to us and how they perceive us. We've talked about social identity groups and how other people may perceive those groups. Now, layered on top of that, which is your domain, and you know much more about this than I do, is dis-ease. And I say it that way because there's behavioral disease, there's substance disease, or abuse disease. There are all sorts of ways where we don't feel easy, or we don't feel like ourselves, right? There are all sorts of ways to try to alter that, some better than others. This further obscures or clouds who we really are. This is something that my 16-year-old granddaughter created this summer. She'd been in therapy for 6 months. Several things have happened to her that I won't go into details about, but she was diagnosed with, it's not PTSD anymore, it's just PTS, right? Post-traumatic stress. So she has that. And she took one of these 14-word for love quotes. I am seeking, I am striving, I am in it with all my heart. This is something that Vincent Van Gogh wrote a long time ago, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And this is actually Devon in grayscale, right? So she drew that of herself. 14 Words for Love was, or is called what it is because in 2011, I was recovering from a major illness, and I continued to read things, probably too much on the internet, you know, bad news, that kind of thing. Of course, Obama was in office. People were talking about post-racial society, and yet there was just awful news to be, certainly told about him, but also, you know, police shootings and just all sorts of things that were wrong. And so I remember at one time looking at an article about these groups that existed to perpetuate this hatred. We would call them hate groups or white supremacy groups. And I noticed that there was something that I kept seeing, which was 14 words as a motto. Now, I will not tell you what those 14 words are because I have not committed them to memory, and they're pretty disgusting as a syntactically together. But I was just like, I think I had enough, sick, like I'm in my abstract head. I'm like, no, they can't have those 14 words. They can't have any words. And so for the first year, I asked a group of my writer friends in North Carolina. I was living in the Raleigh-Durham area at the time. And I asked them, would you help me write, my goal is 100 poems. Would you help me write a few poems about the love we have for our community? And I want to talk about inclusiveness and social justice and things like that. And they're like, yeah, right on, let's do that. So we did it, and we took these poems to a place. Is anybody from Raleigh? Okay, cool. Moore Square was the first time. And then we went to a bunch of bus stops and terminals and hospitals, and it was, I know this, I don't know how this is going to sound, but everybody I talked to that day and later said, I had no idea how filling that was, how that filled me up to be able to do that. We had street performers who performed for us after we, it's just like awesome. We had crowds of people around, not looking at us, but looking at what that generated, just a simple poem in your pocket kind of thing. So we, not to go through too much history, but we did that for 2 or 3 years. I think on Facebook we had something like 3,000 poems generated from just lots and lots of people. I didn't look at the membership list. But we had people in Russia and Poland and Wyoming and all sorts of places doing this, because that's the whole point, is to give away. So I thought I'd show you what my designer has come up with some gorgeous designs, and these are very simple. But once the website gets up and running and we offer these, there will be packs like this, which I used to give out to my leadership students in Terry. They seem to like them. Some of them, it was a mix of social justice, leadership, good philosophy, I think good philosophy. But I'll pass this around and take what you like, like 12-step programs. Take what you like and leave the rest for someone else. But I brought one of those, and I also brought all of the social justice. There are going to be 2 different packs. One's going to be more about inclusiveness, and one's going to be more about unity, all sorts of topics. And there's also going to be one on resist. So I'm just going to pass those along. If you see a few that you like, just take them. There's nothing sacred about those. I just printed them out for you, but they're not designed yet. Anyway, so some of them are pretty funny that people write. I mean, sad but funny. We've all been there, right? We're ruminating about the problem of someone. And Pamela Taylor, who is one of my dearest friends, to understand love, you must understand death. Saying goodbye when you don't know how. She wrote a whole series of those for us over 2 years. She's at Wellesley now, but Pamela Taylor is somebody I hope becomes the poet laureate at some point in my lifetime, so I can see that happen. So what else? You don't have to be a writer to play. You don't have to be an artist to play. This is something that I wrote this morning when I was putting these together. When we create, we reflect more of our core identity, a delightfully dangerous endeavor for some of us who aren't used to being able to create like that, or have the time or the space or the encouragement to do that. So, if writing is not something that you like, consider that you don't have to get in that head space where, oh, I'm a writer, I'm going to be judged, right? I just like to encourage you to try your hand at 14 words if you like. I'll open these up. maybe we can share a little bit with each other. Can I have a time check from someone? 12:51. Thank you. Yes, we got some time. And you don't have to share. I won't make anybody share. But I noticed that there's still a Play-Doh if you want to make a shape or something. So let's just talk about what I might have said that might have sparked a question, or is this something that might be useful to you as an exercise with clients, or if you teach students?
Is it just creativity being representing something for ourselves, or is there?
May I pass these around? Can I take some of these? Yeah, no.
Me too.
Here, you take
Oh
these.
no, I was just going through the ones. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I'm just saying, this might have made more sense.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen it.
Exactly. I'm gonna let you share those. Yeah, that would have been more helpful. You guys wanna share those? So I also have the old pack here, which those as well, but just pass them around, interact if you like. So some of these are quotes, rather famous quotes, or quotes from people who you would know, but didn't necessarily realize what they'd said. Some of them are aphorisms, which are just, it's not poetry, but it's something that's a truth or some perspective that is 14 words, and then others really are more beautiful little poems. So if anybody sees something that they kind of like, maybe you can read it out loud to the rest of us.
I see a smile and a shared story, just the beginning of our power.
That was one that was written, I think, last year. Yeah.
Equal rights for others does not mean fewer rights for you, not 5.
Have you seen that before on shirts and stuff?
I haven't, but yeah, I like it.
I have a Einstein. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer.
Cool. Did you all hear that? I don't think they heard.
It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer.
There's one in there, I think, that one of my friends, I come from Southern Illinois, which, and I don't want to offend anyone if you are from the lower part of the state. Very rural. I was born in 1959. I am 59 today, right? It's weird. It's not called anything. It should be like a platinum. Anyway, I'm going to call it that. Very segregated. The high school went to very small and rural, and I was quite surprised when several of my old high school friends, whom I don't really know anymore, but one of them wrote one of the best 14-word, and I think one of you has access to it. It says something about if heaven's not what they taught, something about his love for his partner who had just died, but it starts out, is heaven's not what they taught? So if anybody has that one, I'd love to hear it. It would have been in the White House.
I have it.
Okay.
If this love was not made in heaven, then heaven's not what they taught.
If this love was not made in heaven, then heaven's not what they taught. Thank you. I messed it up, but so that was a huge surprise to me that that someone I didn't know very well, had gone through that and could express themselves that way. So this exercise that I'm asking you to do, or at least think about doing, you don't have to show me. You don't have to, get up and read it or anything like that. This is just me projecting where I was as a graduate student and thinking, oh, it'd be so fun to do something fun for me just for 10 or 15 minutes, right? We're all creators, and it goes back to my title slide, create, share, connect. Every time we have a conversation with someone, we're creating something as we go. And hopefully we're not giving people a piece of our minds as much as we're giving them a bit of our hearts. But in that process, we're having a conversation. So those are the things that get me up in the morning and excited about building this social enterprise and wanting to go talk to teachers. And you can't teach diversity and inclusion. You all know that. I mean, some of you know that better than others, but we all know that we can't change people's minds based on data or facts even. Maybe to some extent, depending on the person. However, what we can do is give each other a space where we can listen without the overlays of judgment, right? Social identity and stuff. But also respect those social identity layers. So I'm gonna stop being pedantic, telling you what the right thing to think is. But I do want you to consider just picking up some of these things and playing for a while. If you're over in this area and want to come look at some of the cards, I'm sure we can share. Anybody want to share what they've written so far? Any questions about how I lost my mind and quit my job? No? Okay. Yeah.
Here's a question.
I'm just wondering, is this, I want to make sure that I'm kind of clear, is this like a workshop that you do with, you bring people together to do these like creative sort of
Yes.
work? Or,
Yes.
okay.
And the website will be interactive in the sense that when you sign up for an account, you will see your work. If you want, it's a choice. Go, float across the screen because it will be, showcasing everybody. It's the whole mantra is everybody is invited, everybody gets asked to dance, right? The difference between diversity and inclusion, getting an invitation, getting asked to dance, all of that. Eventually there will be contests, but not necessarily this year. And there will be things that will merchandise that will be sold to promote inclusiveness on the website. Yeah. So, but I have been working in North Carolina. I'm trying to, I'm working with Lawrence Harris. Is that a familiar name to y'all? The Athens Clark Academy, Career Academy, rather. So I'm working with him to pilot 14 Words for Love in the Athens Clark schools. And he was very helpful, saying, we'll do a few of those and then invite Dr. Means to see.
So could you tell us more about what that looks like? So when you're doing this in a classroom, what are you doing exactly?
So I usually start with one of these poems, and I'll read you a real short one. And not everybody can relate to having a family member in prison, but where I did some of the residencies before, several people came, certain percentage of the class can. But we can all empathize. That's part of love, right? It's empathy. So this was written by Jimmy Santiago Vaca. It's called Letters Come to Prison. And if anybody loves poetry, they may have already read this beautiful poem. From the cold hands of guards, flocks of white doves handed to us through the bars. Our hands like nests hold them. As we unfold the wings, they crash upward through layers of ice around our hearts, cracking crisply as we leave our shells and fly over the waves of fresh words gliding softly on top of the world, flapping our wings for the lost horizon. So he wrote this when he was in Arizona State Prison in 1976. I just think, the imagery is just so beautiful that, it doesn't need explained. The kids get it. That middle school was really where I did most of my work. They get it, and not looking for them to write like that, but anything. It could be the 14 values that we have include empathy. They include compassion. They include, I don't like the word tolerance, so that's not in there, but understanding, appreciation, right? So whatever they want to write about that has anything to do with that, it could be very painful, but it could also be very cathartic. And I don't make them get up and read what they've written. It wasn't an assignment that I checked off. The whole mission that I had was just to maybe crack the door and say, think about it. And maybe that means they start journaling privately. But I think that's a start, a step in the right direction. Before you all go, and I don't want to keep you, but tell me what some of your areas are, areas of interest. Not areas of interest, but areas, your career interests. Like what direction are you going in? Or are you just, like a lot of you don't know yet? Yeah.
I'm still kind of figuring it out. I've been interested in working with refugees, but also interested in gerontology, which is where my internship this semester will be. So
Good.
Mine is working with adolescents, kind of like in rural areas.
Okay. Oh, good. I needed you when I was growing up. What else? Yeah.
Substance abuse, support in like harm reduction, more in the harm reduction aspect of it.
Okay. So, are you familiar with restorative practices in school? Okay. We can talk about it. Anybody else?
I'm really interested in training and nurturing moms on how to care when they're young. I find there's a big gap in between the birthing of a child and then the 6-week checkup, and then, hey, maybe you have family, maybe you don't. Maybe, right? Kind of super out there in the deep water trying to figure all these things out and your body recovering.
That's great work. My oldest daughter, Devon's mom, had her, I think she just turned 17 when Devon was born. And I was really grateful and felt grateful to have enough means to be able to help her and her daughter, right? But there's so many people who don't have, they may have family around, but they just don't have the financial resources to do that. Everybody's working so hard, so excellent. Were you going to say something? Okay. Well, so yeah, I wish I could force you to do this because it's kind of fun. But I also have something that is called a prompt that I forgot to.
You've often done this with incarcerated students?
I have not. I'd love to. I work with the Georgia Conflict Center on their board, but John Lash is training me to do some of this work that he does using the nonviolent communication model. So I love that I'm my age and I'm still a student. You can be a student of anything, right? So if you take a little pack of cards and then you might decide that you take 2 of those words and try to write something about. It could be anything. I like that one. You all want to play? Yeah, come say I get obvious, forget, stranger, imagine, and whisper, and I decide, and crash. I decide, ooh, I'm gonna try to write something that juxtaposes whisper and crash, because those are two really different sounds. I'm just making it up as I go. We all make it up as we go, right? Or obvious and forget. Those are also very contrasting words. If you've had a poem prompt before, it gives you a question or an image or something like that, and you just let loose with that. Unfortunately, we are taught from a very early age that we have to decide what we're going to do, and we have to be all about that. And Sir Kenneth Robinson and a lot of other wonderful TED speakers have talked about that, right? That idea that's ridiculous. In fact, we should be promoting more creating in schools and beyond. Maybe I should have talked about grit and growth mindset, but if you find yourself afraid to delve into a new territory, whether that's art or something else, it takes time, it takes practice, and if it's fun, just keep going. Do you guys learn about growth mindset here? Carol Dweck's work? Yeah, so if I have a fixed mindset, I'm going to really be afraid that I'm going to mess something up. I'm afraid to step out and fail, basically. And I frame the world that way. I might think of everything as a fixed pie, right? Growth mindset is telling yourself things like, here's sticks over here, right? Either I'm good or I'm not. Growth is, I can learn to do anything I want. You may have a limited amount of time. Feedback is constructive. I like to try new things. Challenges help me grow. Even if I fall flat on my face, I'm still stepping out there, right? So I think that's another book I could have brought that's really helpful, maybe to you or your clients.
Have you ever seen Robert Sherman?
I have.
I love the line from one of his songs in there. It says, the opposite of war is creation.
The opposite of war isn't peace. It's beautiful regardless. You sounded like 14. Everything sounds like 14 words. Thank you for sharing that.
Does it have to be 14 words?
You're not going to turn this in. This is just for you.
But just in general, it's usually.
Yeah, it's usually. So, and also we'll have space, not just space, but the technology on the site to have videos. So if you want somebody to read your 14-worder, or someone comes up with one and they want to actually present it, up to 14 seconds. And then 1 minute 40 for people talking about, reflecting about the process, or having conversations, difficult conversations. Anything that can help us learn from other people's experiences. Again, it's a real shareable platform. Now, comments. The first year I was here, I was a dog camp there was a winner, but someone had nominated me to present at dog camp. So I actually had a camp that was called Camp Barnes, which was very cool. And I went out to dog camp, and that's the week, or it's a few weeks before school actually starts. And I put up that quote, you know, I'm not who I think I am, and who you think I am. And there were two people in that group who were just outraged. Like, I don't care what people think. And I was like, to myself, I would never embarrass them. To myself, oh yeah, they're 18. Which is not to throw them under the bus or anything, it's just to say that's where they want to be and probably are stepping out and doing it. But to say that at 18, I have no interest in copping to the fact that I understand people see me differently. It was interesting how angry they were when I put that up there. So there's not a right answer. That was the range I put up there for them. Well, I do not have a card. They're being printed right now. I thought I'd get them back today, but I don't. But I am at Jodi at 14 Words for Love, and that's 14 words for love. I really should have put that on the slide there, but I hope you find me, and I hope it's okay to send Dean Chayette the link to the website, and that you could help, whether you want to write on there or not, to help promote it, because really this is all about social good. We have so many other forces out there that kind of make us see all of the differences and make up stories about those. So thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you.